podcast. Hell yeah, brother. Overload, brother.
Beats by @Smoke M2D6.
Welcome to the mock game review week 1 preseason preview episode of the Seattle Overload podcast. Unfortunately, Ty cannot be with us tonight, but Griffin can. So it's not just me, which is good because it saves you the bother of having to listen to just my voice. Instead, you can hear a conversation about, firstly, how the Seahawks offense performed in the mock game. But before all of that, Griffin, what's up?
What's up? Happy to be here. Happy to talk about reviewing a team scrimmage and then previewing a preseason game.
So it's funny because there was a lot of heroes who were posting excellent video, particularly the YouTube account Chancellor, which was an excellent kind of mid-level view. Mainly got nice angles of the end zone copy. It was kind of like not 3/4, but kind of 2/3 length side on, and very happy with that. Really good footage. And what was funny about that was I hadn't realized how kind of lacking in intensity a mock game is. Like it was, I'd say 2/3 pace and 2/3 contact wise. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like they couldn't go all out, and yeah, the pacing was kind of weird too. It definitely felt like we were watching just a more organized practice.
Yes,
it was a scrimmage. Yeah, it was just a team scrimmage at the stadium.
Absolute throwback as well here because I can hear one of your lovely dogs.
Yeah, I might need to do something about that.
Well, before that, if you do have to do something about that, we'll have a nice little cut. But if you don't, Drew Lock won the starting job, Griff. Right?
Pardon me?
Well,
Geno Smith's been named the week 1 starter.
That's true. But based off the mock game, the accounts all seem to be in favor of Drew Lock. And from what you saw, did you see Lock looking like a clear starter and way better than Geno Smith?
So he definitely helped himself with this game. But with the quick characterization, like he was mainly checking the ball down, and he's going against a kind of a vanilla defense. Like they weren't doing a lot of stuff. And I think for the most part, a lot of the decisions were the right decisions. But I don't really know what there is to glean from this from either of them. I don't know if any one of them if either of them really separated themselves from each other. It was like you don't anoint a guy because he hit the back 5 times in a row, even if it was the right read. It's like, but he definitely helped himself. I think, like process wise, what to draw from it is he wasn't forcing anything. His feet were pretty settled in the pocket. And like in Denver, he's at his best when and this is kind of a not encouraging thing to say, but he's at his best when his feet are controlled and he's checking the ball down, usually because it's the right decision to make. It's when he's not trying to tap into the extent of his talents is when he does the best, because that's when he runs himself into trouble. But so I think it's still status quo off of this. We didn't really get a lot of good angles on what Geno was doing either. So we don't know what was his fault, what wasn't. We don't know, what he was hitting downfield necessarily or what was available downfield. So I really don't feel like there's anything to draw from this too firmly.
Yeah, what I would say is Locke had a few more passing opportunities in terms of just like the passing attempts. Also, Geno, like from what we saw, like it seemed like he was executing the offense as designed. Like, okay, there wasn't any glitzy passing plays, and that's reflected in his overall production being lower than Locke. But then Locke's glitzy passing plays were quite a bit of yak, and it was exciting to see a quarterback hit over the middle of the field, but it was quite a bit of yak. There wasn't really a deep bomb. It was just kind of taking advantage of the high-low kind of stretch in the middle of the field that the offense presents itself for like 2 or 3 big plays. It was the correct read, but then it was right there, right? So it weren't groundbreaking necessarily, although it was encouraging. I've just remembered who the Baltimore Ravens defensive coordinator Mike McDaniel reminds me of. He looks like a Thunderbird. He really does look like a Thunderbird. Anyway, sorry about that. Locke, though, the other thing with Locke as well is, where was I going with that? The defense was pretty vanilla. They were trying to disguise some stuff. We'll get to them, but
I mean, part of it is that Drew, he knew where the soft spots are in the defense because that's what he's been going up against in practice. So, it was all very simulated.
Tellingly as well, I distracted myself. I'm back. Tellingly as well, Carroll mentioned that Locke missed an opportunity at the end of play. Now, I think if he hits that, which it sounded like a deep bomb opportunity, then I think that sort of completes it all and wraps it up as Locke's a clear winner. And the other thing with that is Carroll today mentioned how it's about the quarterbacks taking these opportunities when they present themselves. The whole competition he described as basically looking at who takes the most opportunities when they're there, along with just playing solid football, of course. Right. And the fact that Locke didn't hit that opportunity, now Carroll's giving us the actual way of evaluating these guys. I mean, that shows that, there's still stuff he needs to do, still stuff he needs to show the coaches. Like, you can't, if there's an opportunity, like an opening there and you miss it, that's bad. Like, obviously that's bad, but particularly in the eyes of the Seahawks coaches, as Carroll himself revealed today. So, yeah, I don't know. Not much to be said.
There was one play. It was under center play action, pocket play action. It was a dagger concept. Obviously, we haven't seen that, I don't think, ever in Seattle, where it's legit, like, dagger over the middle of the field. And it would have been a tight window, but he had DK. It was targetable. The linebacker was closing the space on the window, but he's made that throw in Denver before. So it was clearly there was just a theme of playing it safe, playing controlled.
And he checked it down to the back of the flat.
And he checked it down, and it was tackled immediately by Mafe, I think, or two-hand touched. But
well, that was brought up in Locke's press conference as well as like being an example of him not being like trying to be as much of a gunslinger, avoiding the bad play. He said they dropped under it pretty well.
Okay, so didn't like the look. We didn't have the cleanest angle on it, but I mean, I feel like going into the preseason game, so they're going to have to separate themselves by. I mean, someone's going to have to make those throws in the intermediate. I mean, whoever goes deep well, that will definitely be one of the main separators. Whoever's the cleanest in quick game or the cleanest at getting to the check down when it should be there. Because remember, they're not going to be running that much in gun, so they have to replace those gimme yardage plays with the passing game. So the check down to the back or to the receiver and the deeper drop stuff, it's going to be emphasized. But when those opportunities are there, I mean, that's what's going to allow the offense to actually be functional. You have to get those chunk gains somehow. So that will be one of the main things I'll be looking for. But
in his last press conference before the preseason game, Carroll said his praise about Locke was really glowing compared to Geno. And now I don't think you can read too much into this. Like, Geno Smith is like, he is what he is at this point. Now that could be something more than people think, but like Carroll's basically like Geno's who, what we know, like he's solid.
Right.
But he said, there's been few surprises with him. He's been rock solid. But with Locke, he was really raving about him. He's saying his movement, his natural ability, surprised him. Like some of the stuff that Drew does surprised him. Saying about his quickness of release, ability to throw with awkward feet, his
able
just
to
a lot
throw
of
on the
talent
run
and
too.
skills.
Yeah,
and I think that's not something we've said already, but Locke's ability to throw on the run is greater than Geno.
Absolutely. Also,
he's got so much more talent in that respect, and that does unlock quite a bit of the offense.
Lucky Prophet on Twitter, that's his handle. He does
follow.
Some really great follow. He does some really interesting analytical work. He was looking at Drew Lock's sack rates, in pocket, out of pocket, scrambling, non-scrambling. His ability to avoid getting sacked when he extends the play is really, really impressive. And I think that's because he can throw on the run and throw with so many different arm slots, and with his feet being, off balance, like you mentioned, he's able to whip the ball over defenders. So he's hard to actually, and he has a fairly low career sack rate as well, but he can avoid the sack with getting the ball out, like we said, like when he's checking the ball down quickly or getting rid of it quickly, but also when he's extending. And I think that's part of what Pete is looking at, like his ability to just play the sport while he's out running around. Now, at the same time, that's when he can run into trouble. But the ability to not take negative plays, at least in the backfield, is also there when extending the play. So that's something to look for. It's just, can he combine that with more accurate throws downfield, better decisions downfield? But so it is of note, though, that I think we can still say, while the mock game footage didn't really seem that helpful in terms of determining where the quarterbacks are at, we can still say that Drew won the day. It is good that Gino responded back with 2 really good days in a row this past week, Tuesday and Wednesday in practice, where the local beat was saying that it seemed like Gino kind of wrestled back the, kind of being ahead a little bit, or at least even the score with the tie going to Gino, just reverting to status quo. So that's a good sign, at least measuring his resolve. But we're still talking about practice. So, but it's good seeing. So when we talk about the ability to get explosive, obviously Drew Lock's arm talent, he can access the entire field. Historically, he's been really inaccurate downfield, but the talent is there. So, but with Gino in practice, they were mentioning how he had like a handful of targets, handful of completions, like at 20, 23 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards. That's where Gino's really accurate. And if he is hitting those in preseason, he hits those at a high enough rate, or is accurate enough, that I think he will run away with it if he just hits a couple of those, because he doesn't have to throw 50-yard fade balls. He doesn't have to throw the 50-yard deep post. He will try those, but if he's hitting, the 20-yard in breaking dig, or like the 25, 30-yard seam splitter down the middle, and then the 25-yard corner out to Tyler Lockett, etc., things like that, and even the shorter fades to DK, that 30-yard range instead of the 40, 50-yard range, I think Pete's more than fine with that. Because I mean, we think about deep ball, we think the way Russell Wilson's done it, but Pete Carroll's had quarterbacks at USC that don't have the greatest arms. He's no stranger to that, and he's had quarterbacks that have roughly the same arm strength as Gino, which is like average arm strength. And he's had USC offenses where they kind of thrived in that 20 to 30, 35-yard area. That's how they got explosive. It wasn't the way Russ did it. So I don't think Pete has any issue embracing the way Gino does it. It's just who can work in their areas of the field more efficiently. So I don't know. It's just what we'll have to see play out.
And it's messed up because I'm the one wearing a West Virginia hat, so I'm supporting Gino, but clearly you didn't feel the need.
Yeah, that's true. You're showing out more.
Yeah. So the Steelers' defense is very good, but it's the preseason, so it probably won't be as good. I don't really know much of their depth pieces, which is terrible podcasting, but they haven't, for instance, made many like crazy high picks there. I don't think they made any real blockbuster free agency signings, but their scheme will likely be quite difficult, I'd say, on a quarterback, right? In the sense that they're going to look to cover tight and try a few different pressures, which would test Austin Blythe, for instance, at center, and the early communication among the lower strings of the offensive line as well. And if we do get to see some of these edge rushers, the top types, like a TJ Watt, which I really doubt, but if we did, it would be cool, because then we get to see the rookie tackles tested on the left side in Charles Cross, and on the right side in Abraham Lucas, or maybe Stone Forsyth, or maybe a Jake Curhan. So I don't know. It's probably not going to be as exciting as that. Although, I don't know. It's the preseason. It's always weird.
It will be useful for a few reasons. One, the scheme they run is just so different than what Seattle does. It's a lot of man coverage, like you said. They're trying to be a pressure team, a man pressure team for the most part. They'll do some interesting like inverted stuff. It will be interesting just by virtue of it being so different than what Seattle's been doing. Because like we talked about in the mock game, Locke was going up against the same defense every practice, and they were super vanilla in the mock game. So he just kind of knew the defense well enough to where he knew where to go with the ball. So it will be interesting to see him not necessarily having that pre-existing knowledge. So they're going to have to react. Both of them are going to have to react to what they see more, especially at the line of scrimmage, pre-snap, trying to find out who's hot, who's my pre-snap option. Now both of them also did diagnose well. Like if there was an open hitch in the flat, they took it every time. Both of them did. And well, that's a good sign, in the mock game. But further though, like you said, the tight coverage, the man coverage downfield, while that will be harder to maybe access the throw, it will simplify it for them downfield. The looks will be simplified. So that means the opportunities might be there for them to really try to see who can hit the shots downfield, who can make the big boy throws downfield in tight windows. They may not be zone windows necessarily, but I'm looking forward to it in that sense because we're going to get enough one-on-one scenarios. So who can just be more accurate, who has more chemistry with DK and Tyler. And well, I guess Goodwin, Swain, and Eskridge won't be playing. So then it will be getting an opportunity to see who has more chemistry with Penny Hart and Cody Thompson and Bo Melton and Derek Young. So that, and Aaron Fuller, that will be interesting to see as well. From there though, yeah, I guess it'll be what's going on tackles. That will be the most interesting part. And it sounds like Lucas has the lead at right tackle. They've still been swinging him and Curhan out, and then I think Forsyth is clearly third. Yep. But it's a good sign that Lucas is kind of rising to the top there,
like cream.
Yeah, that's our metaphor.
Yeah, the receiver situation actually,
or simile, because I said like.
Yes, very good. English, not American. Weird. That came off as like pro-colonial. We should mention the receiver situation because there are a lot of injuries sort of cropping up there, which creates opportunities, obviously, for the guys who will be able to play earlier and more often. So Marquise Goodwin has felt some soft tissue kind of deal going on. And also Freddie Swain is dealing with back tightness, and Eskridge is sidelined with a hamstring that Pete Carroll mentioned a hip thing going on as well, which creates big chances for our guy, Cody Thompson, who you likened to Cooper Kupp, and now I have. So,
Did
Thompson, you excited? I think you did. Am I just putting you on that for no reason?
I was commenting on their
ethnicity.
They look nothing alike. They actually do have a startling similar combine and height and frame. Although they move a little differently, but Cody Thompson is actually is a good route runner. I think as much as you can say a fringe roster guy is, which that's what he's been the last 3 years. He's always looked good with his touches in preseason. Both Gino and Drew have talked him up. They're like, both of them are like, I think he's kind of good. Not just talking like one of their friends up, right? It was like seemed as legit as it can be for, again, a guy that is always a fringe roster dude. So like, I don't know. This is a great opportunity for him and Aaron Fuller and Penny Hart to try to show that they belong at the bottom of the lineup. Also, it's always sad to say, but someone always ends up getting hurt, unfortunately, or it's very common that a guy doesn't make it all the way to camp or make it all the way to week 1 and gets put on PUP or IR or worse, So this is a big opportunity for them to try to stick around when those decisions are made.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cody Thompson's skill set should really benefit from the kind of new quarterbacks, like,
Right.
and actually on that same subject, it seems Colby Parkinson has a connection with both of the quarterbacks, particularly Drew Lock, that he didn't manage to establish with Russell Wilson for whatever reason. So maybe we see him go off as well.
Right.
I mean, he's just such a mismatch, and if they're really intent on playing cover one and against a 6'7" dude who has connection and is probably more athletic than the kind of second, third string guy Steelers are rolling out, I mean, that's an obvious opportunity.
Right.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, the Steelers did play a little bit of cover 3. Like it's still one of their base calls, I think. And last year in the Seahawks Steelers game.
Yeah.
So if we do see any of that, that will be telling to see who's straight up the better operator. That's such a good coverage to get a feel for how quarterbacks can kind of read defender techniques and stuff and just make decisions. So I hope we do see enough cover 3, and that especially in the pure dropback situations, to see how Geno and Drew separate themselves from one another there. Yeah. So I don't know.
These two teams have never met in the preseason.
That's very interesting.
A great stat.
But we're going to see a smattering of everything. We're going to see under center pocket play action. We're going to see under center movement with the boots and stuff. Then we're going to see the maybe, I don't know if hurry up necessarily, but the gun dropbacks. We might see some pistol play action. It'll just be really important to see like I could foresee one quarterback outperforming the other in those broad categories. So we'll have to track that throughout the preseason, because they'll have to like Frankenstein together like what they think the best combination is. Because I mean, I could see one doing consistently outperforming in one area and the other quarterback consistently outperforming in the other area. But then what decision do they make at the end of it? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the defense. So if we start with the mock game again, there were a few surprises. There was a lot of quarter half coverage. Seemed to mainly be the quarter side of the tight end. So like super basic pack, whatever you want to call it, which is not surprising. And then the one thing which impressed me, I guess, was how well they handled that fire zone deal, which you actually messaged me, and I'd literally just watched the clip and was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what stood out to me. Where 2 and 3 basically swapped in the play, where with 2 was up in the seam, and 3 went up in the seam and 2 shortened, and the hot to 2 player was deep, so the hot to 2 player picked up the 3 player up the seam, and the hot to 3 player, rather than having to run all the way up there and create space in the low hole, which Seattle has given up in the past, he was able to switch back onto the low hole threat and match that up. I think the ball was still completed, but it was like for minimal gain if it was an actual game, and it was just a very good handling of a concept designed to beat those kinds of 5 under or 3 under spacing in the middle hole. So good work. And yeah, but I mean, what things stood out to you about the defense? The other thing was I wish there'd been a bit more press coverage on display, but I think that was just happened to be the clips we had on offer.
Yeah, we saw quite a bit of even fronts and nickel. Like that's clearly a thing they're trying to do, because especially when you're in 2 high, if you can get away up front playing 4 down when you're in 2 high and still defend the run, I mean, that's golden right there, because that allows you to keep your edge rushers dialed in, keep your edge rushers, able to key pass when they do key pass, to really fly off the ball, especially when they're 250, 260 guys. It's really important. So that's definitely a theme, because you want to be able to have early down pass rush. And on the flip side of what we were talking about, the quarterbacks, them hitting the check down, that it's clear that remains the main weakness for the defense. Because I think for the most part, things weren't open at the second level and third level. The back was, the check down was. So that just speaks to the inherent weakness. And we think about how, well, too high takes pressure off the linebackers. And in many ways, it puts more pressure on them because they're put on an island. That's a lot of space to cover. So obviously Brooks wasn't playing. Barton wasn't always in. We saw a lot
Quarterback
of
was redshirted, so you can't actually finish your pass rush.
Right. So it just kind of again speaks to that is the inherent weakness, and we got to see what the pass rush can do for. I mean, I'm not going to draw too many conclusions from the preseason game because not all the ones will be there. They're not going to put out all their calls, right? They're not going to do all the supplementary things.
Although the one good thing about the preseason is kind of the rawness of it being like, okay, when you're one-on-one, rather than, we'll judge it up with a bit of scheme. We'll spice it up with a bit of this. The pure rawness of winning your one-on-one, it is still like revealing, illustrative of how good someone is. Like, if like Maffei starts just working a second string tackle, well, then you're like, well, his athleticism is pretty damn dominant, even at the NFL level. Okay, sure. Maybe the better tackles can manipulate him more, but he's giving you something off the bench. So I do get what you're right though, with what you're saying.
Right. All right. So should we run down position groups and who we're watching and stuff on the defense for this game?
Well, real quick, I just want to speak on the cornerbacks because Tariq Woolen in the mock game, and I guess we can lead into that, but Tariq Woolen in the mock game impressed a lot of guys. Now, it's hard to know how much of that is kind of the result of the play. So he gets a pass breakup and everyone's like, wow, that was good. But actually, it's a pass breakup he should make, or it's an underthrown ball. But then based off the one-on-one stuff we've seen, both Tariq Woolen and his fellow rookie Kobe Bryant, who has also been impressing reporters, Pete Carroll has praised him, have had some really good reps. We've seen two of Woolen where he's step kicking both times. I said he was read stepping in the first example. He wasn't. He was just stepping as is designed from the technique with his outside foot to keep the hip open for the outside release. But his patience and then his ability to step replace for a tall guy, and then his obvious arm length and his consciousness in keeping his hips open and not breaking before the transition and the break of the route is really impressive. And then the speed and the length can really get put on show. I said when I did my video on him, when I did my analysis on him on this podcast and on other podcasts as well, that he would have a time getting on the field in his first year because of how much technique strides he had to make. Pete Carroll said as much today, but then went on and said how basically he reminds him of Richard Sherman in that he's actually picked up the technique really well, really quickly. And if he does it how he's done in practice, he'll be fine.
And he might be going up against Chase Claypool of all, large-bodied receivers, but maybe only for a series or two. But that would
Miles Boykin as well is on their roster, and he'll probably get some playing time.
Right. And then who did they draft? They drafted Pickens, right?
Pickens and Calvin Austin. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So we can immediately see how he does against the guys that he's supposed to erase, the big body guys on the perimeter. What's crazy about those clips against DK and the fact that he's, by the sound of it, he's been dominating DK actually up until I think the Wednesday practice is when DK finally started making things happen against him. Is that like what's DK's number one thing? It's beating press at the line of scrimmage and beating you vertically. And Woolen is just not giving him anything. Like and he can play the ball, it looks like. So
what was really nice about that first example was it was against Marquise Goodwin. And Goodwin's like that smaller, shiftier type. And Goodwin ran like the worst possible kind of route other than an outside release slant against step kick press coverage, because in step kick press coverage, if you get a wide outside release, you're stepping with your outside foot, you're then replacing with your inside foot. And then you're thinking, I need to slide out here because he's giving me 3 steps to the outside. I need to transition to stay on top with the outside release vertical. Once you've done that and you've turned all the way, they then cut back across your face and they run the slant. And because it's 3-step outside release, it takes so long that you have to open. Otherwise, when they run a 3-step outside release route, you're beat. So it's a very difficult technique. And it's why you see the Rich Shermans of the world and that, like, when they started getting loads of that, they just get out of step kick. They go for like a kind of soft shoe mirror technique to protect against that because it's so difficult. But what Woolen did, which was great, against an outside release, it was kind of a sketchy route from Goodwin, but Goodwin's like their guy for route running. He's the example for Sanjay Lau, the returning receivers coach. That's why they signed him. Big reason they signed him. He ran like an outside release, stutter back inside hitch. It was like an outside release slant go route. And Woolen did great. He opened the gate to the outside. Yeah, he could have stepped a bit quicker. But once he'd opened he only partially opened the gate to the outside. He stayed patient in it. He slid out, but he didn't start getting on his horse. Now, his confidence in his own speed helps. But then as Goodwin broke back inside, Woolen was there, got his 2 hands on to stay on top, managed to keep with the hand fighting, transitioned down the field, got his head rounded for the ball, made a play on the football, which was like super impressive. And then the Metcalf example was a lot of stuttering, walking him out linearly down the field, and Woolen to keep the hips open, stepping back. You may have wanted him to get 2 hands on, but the crucial thing was his feet were right, which enabled him, once Metcalf broke outside, to break outside with the fade and break the ball up. Those are like that. Damn, it will make him a dominant press corner if he can maintain that and then keep his confidence when he does inevitably get beat. And then Kobe Bryant, and I'll kick this over to you, but he's been getting work as well in the slot in nickel, and Carroll described him as a gamer and sort of put that down to the fact he makes so many plays on the football. He's a playmaker, and they just want to feel out what he can do best. Probably thinking, can we get him playing time in his year 1, more likely in nickel. But Griff, do you agree with me that that's probably evidence as well that they wanted more of a man coverage nickel this year?
Yeah. And like because they want to grow their cover 1 package, and a lot of it will hinge on what they get out of Justin Coleman. And that will be another guy we have to watch. He doesn't have to be amazing. Can he just show a semblance of who he was when he, before he left Seattle the first time? Just because that will allow them to keep playing cover 1. But
why do they want to play cover 1?
Well, they want to be able to supplement their zone, and so that they can be aggressive on earlier downs. I mean, you want to get off. It'll be your main call on 3rd down. You want to get off the field. It's cover 1 pressure blitz stuff, or just straight cover 1 4-man rush. But the more you can play cover 1 on earlier downs and be sound for the run still, the better, because it's you're trying to defeat them, break them at every point on the field. So, and that will, like, 2nd and 5, really solid zone defense is great, but you can still check the ball down and set up a 3rd and 1, or can just barely convert. Because, I mean, you take a 4-yard check down on 1st and 10. You say that's good defense. We defeated the zone concept. You know what I mean? But that's, the more you can bleed your cover 1 package onto earlier downs, the more you're not just beating the offense, you're taking it to them, and you're not just preventing positive plays, you're generating negative plays. So that's something they got to be able to do. But like right now, they're down Trey Brown, as we already know, and then Sidney Jones and Artie Burns. It sounds like Sidney's going to come back, probably won't play in the Steelers game. Or if he does, it'll be light work. But I mean, what an opportunity for Kobe and Tariq, who are having really good camps, as are the guys ahead of them. But with the front line out, I mean, they might, for all we know, they might seize a starting spot with this, depending on how this goes. And they're going to have, if they're going up against the Steelers ones just for a drive or 2, that's really good work to kind of see where they're really at. The fact that they're getting good results against Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and Goodwin is good stuff. Again, although it sounded like Lockett and DK were really coming alive this past week against them. But it'll be good to see. But yeah, if we can see anything of Kobe Bryant in the slot, even if that doesn't necessarily mean replacing Justin Coleman, but they're going to see so many different skill sets at receiver. They have so many skill sets at DB now. They can mix and match guys. They can optimize their cover one package when they go into nickel or dime, depending on the down and distance. Like they can even trot out 7 DBs if they want with some bandit if it's 3rd and 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
So
what I would say about Bryant is some of his best reps on that Alabama tape, so real high level of competition, were versus like cut split receivers, where he's still playing outside corner technically, but he's in the NFL as kind of a slot rep.
It can translate to that, yeah.
It does translate, and also one of his best traits is how he undercuts guys and understands when he can go for the undercut, which
on
in
the
the slot, on inbreakers,
Yeah.
even on kind of outbreakers like even on outbreakers or like a comeback, which I've already spoke about, but that in the slot is big because you can't keep running over the top. At a certain point, you have to understand when you can undercut. The post safety, if we're talking cover one, the post safety enables you to undercut routes because he's your help over the top.
Right.
But also it means you don't get in as difficult a foot race that the slot represents. Now, the other thing he showed was in that one-on-one clip versus Metcalf, perfect coverage for a Metcalf comeback, and he won't face as good a timing of a comeback route in a real game because it's pass rush, there's other variables going on. The quarterback can't just wait for the perfect timing to throw the comeback, but also he won't face as big a receiver as Metcalf. And the slot probably keeps him cleaner from that, even if there are some power slot kind of dudes in the slot. Generally speaking, guys tend to be a bit smaller, and he has like real patience and agility. And that Metcalf rep, even if he had slightly longer arms, he'd have got the pass breakup, I think, because his route to the ball was beautiful. He had a little subtle tug to get back into the catch point on Metcalf's back of his jersey. And, he managed to get one hand on Metcalf, even though he's got short arms. He managed to he does a great thing where he's able to flip and get one arm on as he does this flip to transition out of there. It's almost like snatching to stay on top, which is nice. So in the slot, very exciting to see that. And if he's up against a Calvin Austin, who's like a little jitterbug kind of player, then that's a really good test for him because I actually think he's pretty good against the bigger guys, but against like the extreme version of a slot receiver, the kind of jitterbug type, then that's a big test in terms of can your agility hold up? Like he didn't have the best agility numbers.
Right. It'll be interesting to see him against Deontay Johnson.
Oh yeah.
If they actually play him. God, that 2019 receiver draft is just insanity. Yeah.
So what other position groups are you looking forward to? You're not just talk over the whole roster in this preseason game, but not quarterback.
So I don't know. Let's stay on the defense and let's just go front to back. Let's start. I mean, up front in the interior, there's not a lot that we need to confirm or see. Like we already know they're going to be what they are. If Quentin Jefferson or Shelby Harris show a lot pass rushing, great. But like they're going to get decent pressure this year. I don't really have any question about that. Al Woods and Mona and Puna Ford, they all are what they are, right? Like there's not a lot to, ponder really. I don't think the guys to watch on the edge. I mean, Taylor's going to be Taylor. You want to see him playing well, but the wild cards I think are going to be, we want to see Boya Mafe for sure, see what he does. I'm intrigued by Alton Robinson having dropped 15 pounds.
Yeah, that was big. That we haven't spoke about that. I was like, because they drafted him to be a speed rusher, right? And then he came in heavy, and they were like, "You're not a speed rusher anymore."
And his weight fluctuated in college, and I can't remember which year it was, but either his junior year.
The last season was worse.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like one of the years looked better. And so he's a guy that knows how to corner and he has decent play strength at contact, but doesn't have incredible like speed to power. He needs to be like a get off speed, strength, finesse dude. And he just doesn't have enough get off to get depth on the tackle to engage him the way that he can engage them well. Like he knows how to corner, he knows how to get the hips around and stuff. It's just he's not consistently getting the position on the tackle early enough in the snap. So with 15 pounds off of him, is he just fast enough to get him into those positions to where he can actually get clean wins? So like instead of him, yeah, go ahead.
To me, it sort of sounds. Sorry to interrupt. To me, it
No,
sort of
you're
sounds
fine.
like he's going to take the Tyreek Smith role, given that Tyreek's sort of he's going to
Yeah.
almost getting an injury red shirt kind of thing going on.
Right.
Hard
Definitely.
to catch up.
So
but you're saying he needs to do what?
So like last year, he would have like quality reps in the season last year, but it's like where he's winning at 10 to 11 yards, and it's just not good enough.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
he needs to win at 7-8 yards more frequently, and he's going to do it with strength and technique. Like he's not going to deplete a guy like Taylor can, because he's converting so much momentum at the point of contact. If he really sets up speed to power, he's not going to blow by a guy like Taylor either with pure speed. He has to get to depth. He has to get half man on the tackle, and then he has to, beat their hands and rip through and corner on them and bend through it. So he needs to get depth on them at 4 or 5 yards and start to bend it, 6, 7, 8, and see if he can get to the quarterback more cleanly. He can do it left or right side, I think. Like I was watching the Detroit game, and he actually got their left tackle a couple of times. But again, it was like at 10 yards. Like if he's going to stick around, it has to be more shallow. But then the other guy I really want to see, and I want to know if he's just more of like an annoying guy in practice, to quote Pete Carroll, is Aaron Donkor. He had one really good move in the mock game. He's crazy fast, crazy explosive. He actually has technique, crazy bend. He's just 6'1", 240.
Where was
maybe
he?
245.
What was his college? Like JUCO? Some weird thing going on. I don't know what it was. But there he was a on-ball rusher. So when they moved him to Will last year, I mean, I guess that was to kind of teach him football, to have some like cross training with special teams where you're like block shedding. You're playing downhill, you're filling a gap. Yeah, but he was always an edge rusher type, really. So the move to the 3-4, the accenting of 3-4 personnel in their existing 3-4 fronts, and the built upon foundations in 2022. Is that okay with you, Griff?
It's okay with me.
Good.
It's perfect.
It's okay with me too.
Couldn't have coped it better myself.
Okay, good. That really suits Donker, and he's very fluid at stringing stuff together. Like he had an inside move on a Tex game in one of the Seahawks practices where on the training camp live, where they showed just him, and it was his side of the D line, but he beat the right tackle. Okay, it was Forbes, who I think has been cut now, but like fourth string, but like it was nice, and against like lesser string guys. I mean, heck, he did it last preseason, didn't he? I swear he had like
he made moves. I mean, that's why we're talking about him right now, is because of the stuff he did last year, and then now and then Pete hypes him up every once in a while throughout the regular season, talking about practice. And then the mock game, he has one really good looking rush. Like it wasn't a fake rush. It wasn't like, oh, the tackle was just too slow, and it's like, is that really translatable? No, I mean, he straight up cross chop, inside arm, knocked his hands down, bent around it, bent through it. It was like 6 yards that he won at. It was crazy. He's too small. He's not going to hold up in the run game, in base, but can he be a guy that makes the team? He'll make the team either way, because he gets the roster exemption, but can he actually ever be active? Can he be part of like an 46-man active roster during the season? Can he be part of that, the nickel rotational edges? I don't know, man. But I want to see if it's possible.
That's what's so cool about the preseason. You have all these names. Like last year, Miles Adams emerged as a big guy who was like exciting. Even
he's going to get a lot of
had
snaps.
Some nice plays.
So I guess I mean, to your point, Miles Adams is the main guy, I think, on the interior to watch for, to see what he's bringing. Maybe he didn't bring last year. So
yeah, we'd expect him to sort of make the leap if he's gonna continue his progress, and he wants to kind of like, he needs to beat out ALJ Collier, right? And Collier's got this injury, so it's a big opportunity.
Yeah.
All right. Now, other side of the ball, the running backs, the Penny's hurt his groin, so it's a big opportunity for Kenneth Walker to be showcased, and everyone probably will be very impressed with him. Carroll was raving about his ability to pass protect and how he's improved in that area since being drafted, because it was a ding on him coming out of college that his pass protection was kind of lacking. So that'll be exciting. I mean, he's so obviously explosive. That was something in the mock game and in some practice videos where he just has some his low center of gravity leads to some kind of exciting moments, shiftiness. So that would be cool. But we have another star of last preseason, don't we, in Josh Johnson?
Yeah. The running back room, they've got 5 guys, 5 incumbents between. I mean, Penny will play in the regular season, obviously, but they have Penny, Walker, DJ Dallas, Travis Homer. So I'm missing someone. Would that make Josh Johnson?
You're missing a really weird one. Did you know that they'd signed Darwin Thompson?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know if is he not to, not to sink him so soon, but I mean, are we really expecting him to make the team?
Oh, heck no. But I think he's the kind of dude who will show up when there's like 4 minutes left, and he'll be like the passing down back who catches the check down over the middle for like 3 yards.
Okay, all right.
From Jacob Eason. But I mean,
I guess now that Ballore is legitimately a linebacker now, I guess that means Josh Johnson is the 5th guy if they go 5.
Travis, just on that, Travis Homer was taking reps at fullback. So
interesting. So I think
such a maniac.
I think of all those guys, Josh Johnson is more promising as an early down guy, even over DJ and Travis long term.
Sacrilege. No,
I mean, he seems like he could be undrafted free agent, but Chris Carson was a 7th round pick. Thomas Rawls was an undrafted free agent. I definitely think Josh Johnson could be a high carry guy. So we'll be watching him, see how he does. Hopefully they give him more early run, but Pete has barely mentioned him. So I don't know what's going on there. He's mentioned a lot about Travis and DJ. So, yeah, I mean,
my spy at training camp said that Josh Johnson was joking with Drew Lock. So clear chemistry between the two.
Indeed. And then how does Kenneth Walker handle protection, like Pete Carroll's been talking about? He's doing well there, apparently.
Because Johnson's best play last season, was that inside zone or was it the mid zone from the gun? Because he impressed with his one cut kind of vision, right?
Yeah,
I can't remember what concept it was because I'm just
explosive.
Thinking,
it was definitely zone, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
if it was gun or under
cool
center.
To see him in under 10 to outside zone because I don't really think we saw much of that, and it will mainly be mid zone.
Right.
I guess the other dynamic here with all the receivers hurt is who's going to be the fly sweep guy, because they'll want to do a bit of that motion, especially as it kind of a core part of the offense, particularly this year. Now, Bo Melton, maybe Penny Hart.
Definitely Bo, definitely Penny. I mean, we might see Tyler do it, but I don't think they'll actually give him the ball because I don't think they want him getting hurt or taking too many hits. But he'll definitely be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, Derek Young could do it. He's tall, but
definitely Derek.
He's played in a wing team, man. You got to do
that.
Yeah. And I think that's probably it. Forgotten name as well is Cade Johnson, who I guess is
Cade Fuller, maybe.
Everyone likes him. Fuller had an alright preseason last year.
Yeah.
So they've got for the preseason, they have quite exciting depth on both sides of the football. Oh, and another thing we should mention is Ryan Neal's dealing with a high ankle sprain, and so safety-wise, it's a big opportunity for Josh Jones, Marquise Blair, who's been playing a bit of safety as well. Oh, and real quick on that, the deal of safety or nickel, I mean, there's a lot of carryover between the two. Really, it's kind of like a 3 safety system, even though it's not unless they start putting an actual proper man cover corner at the nickel spot. But when it's Ugo out there at nickel, then it's kind of 3 safety-ish.
Yeah.
And I think they'd like to lean on that a bit more at times. They certainly do on passing down. They do lean on that for disguise purposes. like when they spin into that cover 2 with the free safety down as the middle hole player. But Blair playing safety again, it's just a chance for him to practice it and then be able to slot in at both spots and get as much playing time as possible. But also they're kind of light there with Neal being hurt. So yeah, big opportunity for Josh Jones and Blair to kind of compete for that spot.
We'll finally see what Blair looks like as an actual safety, because we really haven't seen him. We've only ever seen him down to the line of scrimmage, even when he was the strong safety in 2019, because they were still a 1-high team then.
He played deep safety against Baltimore, didn't he? And there was a mix-up, but I don't think it was his fault.
Maybe a pinch.
But you've actually said in the past how kind of a split safety system almost suits Blair's game.
He's just so explosive, and he takes such sharp angles. You would think that his traits apply, especially to quarters where he can play downhill more. Like you just want to see like what do those traits look like with enough coaching and reps and stuff. So yeah, so we'll see there. I think putting him at nickel is just a way to find him snaps, because you're not going to play him over Diggs or Adams, obviously. So we'll see. Also, he's been hurt. We don't know what kind of athlete he is now. Hopefully he's the same, but I don't know.
Hopefully. Right. Well, and it's not Heinz Field anymore. Really, really tragic, sad news. Corporate America.
Another ketchup company has to swoop in there. I wanted to say sweep in there. That wouldn't make sense. But it would be funny if they named it after like Trader Joe's Organic Ketchup Field or something like that.
They're really going for the mass market there.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching. Great 5-star reviews. We do see them. We appreciate them. Thank you. Please keep them coming. Please like and subscribe to this video on YouTube. Please just share the podcast amongst your friends. Download it. We may have some exciting podcast news coming soon. So keep your eyes peeled on the Twitter at Seattle Overload, which you should follow. And also please follow Griffin at CMikeSpinMove and myself at Matty F. Brown. Thank you.
Agreed. Peace out.